Good morning. This is another beautiful day to be optimistic. The station is Atlantic Television Network and the program is Atlantic Blowout. And Atlantic Blowout is a syndicated live program of the network that features chit-chats and conversations on special interest topics. We talk about news, events, and stories through correspondence reports, expert opinion, and stakeholders analysis. Today, some of the stories we'll take this one from Akwa Ibom State. Good news or not, depending on how you see it, the government of Akwa Ibom State has offered youth 310 million naira for shunning hunger protests. And then from Kaduna State, bandits kidnapped nurses, patients, and others in a hospital in the state. And then from Labour, federal government rejects human rights accusations by the UK Union. On a refinery, this is a very interesting story. Federal government blames NLC for blocking the sale of those refineries in 2007. And then on corruption, directs DSS to end attack against us, Serap State, and they're telling the federal government. On crime, corruption convicts should not enjoy state pardon, a statement by AGF. We'll go on a short break. After that, I'll let you know who our guest is, and we'll delve straight to the details and analysis of these stories. Please stay with us. All right, thank you so much for staying right here with us. With me in the studio is Alfredo El Nino. He is a public affairs analyst, amongst many other things, right? Yeah. Good morning to you and welcome. Good to have you again. You're welcome. All right, let's delve straight to it. We're going to Akwa Ibom State first. And like I said when I read out this headline, it's either good news to you or not, depending on how you see it. Akwa Ibom State Governor Umo Eno on Tuesday announced his cash reward of 310 million naira for the leadership of the Akwa Ibom youth across the 31 local government areas of the state for boycotting the recent #EndBadGovernance protests. The governor, in a meeting with stakeholders on the eve of the #EndBadGovernance protests in Uyo, promised to appreciate the youth of the state if they shunned the nation. Speaking during a thank you rally at Uyo Township Stadium on Tuesday, the governor said each of the 31 local governments in the state would get 10 million naira each, which he added should be shared across party lines. He said the leadership of the youth in each of the local governments will receive the money and spread it across party lines. He said the gesture was a promise he had to keep in appreciation of the youth. Let's start from the gesture before we move to the sharing amongst local government and along party lines. Well, let's just start from the overall gesture. Alfred, how do you see this story?
You see, the gesture has actually culminated into negative party lines. Because looking at this now, whom are these youths? Where were they come from? And looking at the overall scenario is the Akwa Ibom state is a Niger Delta state, and we know predominantly how these things are affirmationed over time. This is going to bring negative tidings to the youth.
How? How would they do that?
Now, who are these youths? If you look at the end, you will see it even on the faces of the youth that they are actually hungry. Now, they say a hungry man. Now, whom are these youths that have made up, whom are made up of these local government areas that we culminate into sharing 310 million naira? Looking at it, the average Nigerian youth is hungry, and that was the reason why we came out to demonstrate. To this effect, everyone that is hungry to partake in this government sinuses. But looking at it in retrospect, we should stop politicking.
So you feel the Akwa Ibom youths are probably not hungry, and that's why they didn't join the protest?
That was why I asked earlier on, who are these youths? Because, like here in Port Harcourt, most of the youths that don the streets is from either the NDDC or the government. And at what point, as a case study now, would a youth come to say, we did not partake in the spoils from the government, and now that same government is coming to share monies? We ought to have taken the monies and gone our separate ways.
But we didn't.
But we didn't.
Maybe we should get you right now. Are you saying the youths shouldn't? Who are the youths that didn't join the protest? Because you've been saying who are the youths. Are you asking receiving the money, or are you asking of the youths who didn't join the protest? What exactly is your point?
To me, I believe it was within the purview of every youth to join in the protest.
So you feel every youth in Nigeria should have joined that
protest?
Should
have joined, and I think government and politics has gone gaga in Nigeria, because it's the same government that will say don't do this, that same government will say do this. Periodically, have we gone into the streets to find out the yearnings of these youths? Look at the tag. And hunger. What do you think 310 million naira would do in the lives of all of these youths?
But it was not like he was mandated to give them 310 million naira. It's just a promise he made to them. You know, before the protest, he told them not to join the protest. And he's not the only state government that told the people of the state not to join the protest. Akwa Ibom state did, other state governors did, and then at the end of the day, in some of those other states where the governor told them not to join, they still joined the protest. And he felt he deemed it fit, because he stated it earlier, oh, I'm going to reward you if you don't join the protest. And now he deemed it fit to reward them for not joining the protest. But should that really be the problem?
Those who make the laws are the same that also break the law. This is very, very cynical, Annie. This is end hunger, or it was a hunger protest, right? Now, for people that are hungry, they can eventually do anything. If you say you want same youth to come out to protest, you will see same number of youth, same faces. There are videos to this effect. Like, I keep using Port Harcourt as a scenario. I have videos I will show you. Those that were in the streets promulgating against the end hunger are the same youths that collected money and started acting against themselves.
In Port Harcourt?
Here in Port Harcourt. I have footage of all of this.
I thought you mentioned earlier that monies were provided for Port Harcourt's protesters and they rejected it.
Yes. But at a time, nationwide, we have youths that are gullible everywhere. They say money talks, bullshit happens.
Language?
Yeah.
Yes, we don't use that language on air. Go on.
Now, you see, when you see youths in retrospect trying to kick against what the federal government is doing, you will see other vices showcasing itself before the youth. That is the singular reason why we are where we are. And that is what has brought us to where we are today.
Why do you think the Akwa Ibom youths did not join the protest?
They were held back. Now, it's not as though Akwa Ibom mites are not vulnerable. An average Akwa Ibom youth condones respect. That is why you see them everywhere nationwide. You know? And I think that is where the governor has held sway in holding tight to the youth, not to demonstrate. And I asked from the beginning, what was the process? How were these youths chosen? Because there is a given number of youths per local government. And I think this has gone through party lines.
And that's what he said, that it will go through party lines. You're talking about the distribution, right? The
distribution, through party lines. Now the question is, what of those that are not affiliated to either party? Does that mean they will not partake in the spoils? These are questions that need answers.
That's already looking like the money is not for all the youths.
It's not for all the youths. Because it's inherent in us that once you don't partake, you start forming opposition. And this opposition can be either or against the government. And by the time the opposition surpasses that of government, they start a second phase of empowerment. It is predominant here in Niger Delta. Like the people coming from the creek to say, we own this. If you don't partake, this happens. At the end of the day, you start empowering a single man to survey oil in the whole of the Niger Delta. At the end of the day, some youths will say, wow, it means if you don't ferment trouble, you will not be empowered. And that is where we have gotten to today. It is on this premise that I'm saying we should look inherent in the way we include people governmentally, structurally, or otherwise. Because the Nigerian youth has surpassed the stage wherefore a government will say we are giving you this to stop this. At the end of the day, that system will still pervade. The system will still pervade, because how much or what form will the empowerment take? Are they going to buy them vehicles? Are they going to buy them sewing machines? Or are they going to share the money and say, go and establish yourself? If it's not going, even at that self, look at the rate, the Naira rate. Nigeria have been dollarized. So if you share these monies evenly amongst these youths, you will see that it is tantamount to nothing, almost nothing.
So you think it would have been more effective if it was used in, probably invested in something that would benefit the youths?
The government is supposed to be all inclusive. And you, as a youth, if the government or governance has not rubbed off on you in one form or the other, you feel aggrieved. And that is where I go wrong with most of these governmental figures, because they don't have a think tank team that will help them brainstorm on how to run their government. Until we have an all-inclusive government, wherefore you bring people that are outside the auspice of governance to brainstorm with you as a government on how to parry individuals politically, religiously, economic, or the other, it means we are still where we are.
That's public opinion.
Yes, you must carry out public opinion, you know, so that you don't shoot yourself on the foot when you are facing the public. But these days, what I feel or what I see is a government that will just say this is what we want, and they don't even go an extra mile to make sure they have the right footing to be able to mitigate what's going to happen in front.
So if public opinion was actually sorted, do you think the youths will reject 310 million naira as cash? And would ask for probably it to be invested in infrastructure or something that will provide jobs for them and things like
those policies, all of that came with the monies. And they dropped the Ghana must go of money in the arena. Believe you me, that money was not shared. Students went for the money straight without due process. And within a twinkle of an eye,
the money was finished.
The money was finished.
Oh my God.
As in, it became survival.
Does it mean there was no leader of the group or something?
Do we really have leadership in Nigeria?
In the school system, that particular group you mentioned, yes. In the school system. You said students were there, right? Yes. And then the money was kept. Yes. And then they squandered the money like that. Was there no leadership in that student group? I sense you were one of the leaders in that group.
I wasn't. I was this type that kept to himself because my parents were academic staffs and I watched my ways.
But what happened to the leadership of that particular group?
The leadership, when the head is rotting, what happens to the rest of the body? The leaders, the supposed leaders, started it.
So when you talk about us changing the narrative, back to the story now, where you said we need to change the narrative, what exactly are you referring to?
When I say we should change the narrative, we shouldn't always put monies first. Because there are other ways this government would have empowered the youth than making proclamation of monies. Because at the mere mention of monies, you start having the wrong sets of persons coming to partake in the spoils. That is why, if you look at people from the outside world, you will see that they've gone so sophisticated technologically or otherwise without putting monies first. But the government knows once they mention money, all and sundry will be at their foot to partake in the spoils.
What if there's a strict measure on ground to make sure that it is shared evenly as suggested by the governor?
Have they ever put such measures on ground?
Most times there are measures on ground.
Do they work?
That's another big question.
They don't work. They don't work.
Doesn't mean we can't make them
like
work.
In my village, there was a time they wanted to bring their economic windfall monies, and they were having head counts. My house was literally swept off. The roof was swept off. Nobody came to my house to ask questions, but monies were shared around. So I'm speaking from experience, and this was 2012. How many years ago? And I'm not sure the narrative will still change. In as much as we've not changed our ways, the narrative will not still change. That is why I'm crying out to the average Nigerian youth. Let's try to copy rightly from our foreign counterparts so that we can actually have a change in our political sphere, in our scenario, the way we live our lives, so that we can have the wherewithal to tap into the youth, into the future, where we as a youth can key into government policies rightly.
You know, we've been comparing a lot youth leadership and, leadership of the people who have been there even before we were born, you know, and things like that, and that are still leaders now. And then you hear youth saying things like, oh, they told me I was going to be the leader of tomorrow, and this is my tomorrow, and the leaders of yesterday are still ruling. But you just mentioned youths, you know, not having the right mindset, according to your analysis, and you saying they should borrow from foreign countries and in terms of governance and the rest of them. So do you think that the youths are ready, should I say contaminated now, or should I say that the youths are already having the mindset of the leaders that they are complaining about? So now when you look at it, is it a problem of age? Is it because you're a youth that you will do better? Or is it a problem of, is there a Nigerian factor that's affecting all the leaders, whether it depending on not looking at your age? Do you understand? Is it a problem of age now? Does it mean that if youths come in, they'll do better because they are youths?
This is not an age thing, you know. Now we should have a scenario where lots of workshops, symposia ought to be organized, you know, where you bring a whole lot of youths that are technocrats to come and discuss and chart a way forward on how government ought to be run, because to me government is supposed to be transient, you know.
Okay.
When we say transient, it's supposed to be moving from one medium to another in a positive strident way, so that from time to time we say or tend to say, yes, we are beginning to get it right, that the Nigerian youth is beginning to have a change of mind.
All right. Yes, let us move to the next story now, okay. Even though time's longer on our side of that story. But this story is on bandits, and it's really not something to be excited about. It's a very sad one. In fact, I had to really take this story because there are so many parts of it. We had reports that bandits have reportedly killed 6 and adopted several others in Kala Afogo community, Kajuri local government area of Kaduna State. Now, the locals reported that the bandits attacked the village about 11:15 p.m. on Sunday. They broke into houses and went away with the locals, also killed a local who pursued them into the bush. The bandits launched another attack on Bakinpa in Mara ward of the same council, where 1 person was killed and 6 others adopted. The state police command was yet to react to the incident. Meanwhile, 2 nurses and a number of patients at the primary health care center in Kuyelo, Bernin, Gwari local government area of the state were also adopted after, according to a local, they initially targeted the nearby government day secondary school, arriving at 9 a.m. On that day. When they found the school empty, they turned their attention to the healthcare center located in close proximity. The Kaduna State Police Command spokesman was yet to react to inquiries on the incident at press time. Like I said, this story is a very sad one. To think that they actually first went to a school, a primary school, and when they noticed that the school was locked, the students were not available, they went to a hospital to kidnap nurses and patients. This is something that should really be looked into, and this is not one of those stories that you just want to bypass, because at this point you just know that more measures need to be taken to make sure that we stop having cases like this, because people no longer feel safe, especially in some of these states. I don't want to just say in the north now, but yes, that's where we've been having cases of banditry a lot in Nigeria. Now patients were adopted, nurses were adopted. Let's get your thoughts on this story.
As a matter of fact, I'm calling on the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Mr. Ahmed Tinubu, to resign honorably.
Why? Why would you say that?
Because he swore an oath to protect lives and properties. And it's becoming unbecoming that the level and state of insecurity in the north is becoming too hyper. Looking at people from the north, you look at it, it's beginning to affect food.
Yes.
There's food crisis.
But this is
now
not
looking
new.
At
banditry is not new.
No, it's not
and
new.
it didn't start with this administration either.
Now you see, banditry is getting more sophisticated by the day and by the hour.
Okay.
People are no longer safe in the north. If you are given 1 billion naira today, can you go and invest in the north? But looking at the human capacity, looking at the environmental factors, with all of that. Now this brings us to brings me to the service chiefs. How were they appointed? We have the Air Force, we have the Navy, we have the police, we have the army. Now, at what point will bandits come to a school or a hospital, carry out a raid for hours without an iota of fear? There was a place I went to for a talk show, and we spoke extensively on this. The schools just resumed for a new academic section, and people are going to pay fees. Now, what do they do with these fees? Is it just payment of staff salaries? What of humanitarian services? What of other menial services around the school arena? And I think if you go to the rural areas, you see thatch houses where they use as schools, and they'll say this is government approved everywhere. Now, at what point does the Ministry of Education approve such schools? If you look at their signboard, you will see international. Look at that word in retrospect, international. That is nation by nation. It means you are meeting national standard. Is it not? Looking at it from that angle now, so do you think it will be very? Do you think it will be okay if they channel part of these monies into security?
So, if the president resigning will solve this problem, you see that as a solution to this problem?
Definitely, if you are incapacitated to rule the country, step aside. After all, someone in the likes of the in the likes of the president of the United States of America is stepping aside for someone else because he knows that he does not have what it takes to phantom good and transient leadership come next year.
Due to his health.
Due to his health. Not just health, but also age. No, if you look at it health-wise, taking it from the health-wise now, the more you age, the more your level of thought retards. If you are 70 and above, you start acting like a baby.
Not in all cases anyway.
Not in all cases, you know, but in most cases. I'm not saying he suffered from dementia, but I think in Nigeria, where we have people in the academia, people that knows what it takes to rule a nation, people that has the people at heart, this will not happen. Do you know that Nigeria is at war? We are at war.
How are we at war?
For every day you sleep and wake up and you're alive, you say, thank you, my savior. Because now, you can wake up in the morning and you are hearing that people are dying in their hundreds in the north. Is that not war? It is just that there is no battle involved. Now you wake up in the morning. When was the last time that you woke up and you had a news that gladdened your heart as a Nigerian, as an individual?
You haven't had any news that gladdened your heart, down to the minimum wage approval. It didn't gladden your heart.
A minimum wage
local government autonomy did not gladden your heart.
No, please, let's not use that terminology anymore. Minimum wage. That thing is slave wage, because the money does not even leave your desk before you go home. Because most of these workers are always they are always indebted. I have a neighbor that owes so much that his money does not even get home at the end of the month.
So before he earns the salary, he's owing the full salary.
He's owing, because he has 3 kids. He must pay for fees. They must feed. The issue of transportation is there. So what is 70,000 naira to such a man. That is why I kept urging people to think out of the box, because hunger can bring out the other side of you. That, from time to time, I've seen Nigerians that are suffering in different spectrum go extra length to make a living. This is where I feel the government ought to come in. You know, they should embark on a rescue mission to rescue the ordinary Nigerian from the melanchises of what is being faced us now. Because in due time, Nigerians won't be able to take it no more. And what I'm seeing brewing us in the face is something that people won't be able to take over time. The president has not gone 2 years. He has 2 years more. And they believe everybody that comes in as a president must stay 8 years. Look at what we are facing in just a little while.
Whose belief is that every president that comes in must stay 8 years?
The political stalwarts, their cabals.
Okay, that's you're talking about. That's why that's the reason they want to come back sometimes.
That is it.
Okay, because last we checked, it's 4 years.
Yes, 4 plus 4 is 8. That's it. So they believe they have what it takes to. Obasanjo tried it. He wanted a lifetime presidency. Did it work? No.
Let's go back to banditry
so
now.
Going back to
and look at how you think we can come. You have talked about the president resigning, but before we have that, which we never heard the federal government tell us the president is planning to resign. So before then, what do you think can be done currently?
For every problem, there ought to be a solution. Like I said, the globe, the world, is no longer medieval. You know, we've surpassed the medieval era. We've gone from the analog state to the digital stage. Therefore, I believe with science and technology, we ought to employ all we can to make sure we bring banditry to its barest minimum, if not eradicated. Because the government policies can co-host with the locals, with foreign counterparts in regards to technology. For instance now, if we have CCTVs everywhere in a state, and there's a budget for that, with power inclusive, because you can't have a footage if there's no power in place. Look at what happened in Borno State. Their dam just collapsed, ravaging 70% of a full state, submerged. No? And these dams, I believe, could have been transformed into hydropower, electricity, right? But because of the powers that be that wouldn't want to do this, summing up all of these, if we have CCTVs, they should make every establishment in the whole of Nigeria own a CCTV system, then put security measures in place by also co-hosting with the locals technologically, then putting communication gadgets on ground. It's not all about carrying.
You think we don't have these things? You think we don't have communication gadgets? How do you think we go about our intelligence gathering in the first place? And then secondly, how much political will do you think is available to carry out, more measures or more stringent measures to put an end to banditry in Nigeria?
You see, election. Our vice president.
Okay, I never saw that video. So
I
can't even consent to that statement right now.
I will send them to you.
And until we actually see that video,
so that you can see it as fact. I won't come on air not to substantiate whatever I am saying here, because whatever I say, like the police will always say, will and can be used against me, right? Like, I feel our government factors are putting square pegs in round holes. Look at the FCT minister today. During his campaign, he made pronouncements. He said, if elected as the president that he had the wherewithal to bring banditry, hostage taking, and all of that to its barest minimum. What was he saying?
So the measures that the federal government has taken towards doing that, you don't see that as viable?
They are not viable.
That can be maintained?
At all.
Or that will bring out results?
At all. You know, like I said before now, putting square pegs in round holes. To me, I believe the FCT minister ought not to even occupy that seat. Do you know why I'm saying this? Making such pronouncement now, he would have been given an office as a minister under the auspice of whatever he has said, so that he can go and take. He wants to fight.
Is the FCT minister in charge of security in Nigeria?
He's not. That is why I said.
So why are we mentioning the FCT minister?
He should be put in such an office. If you tell the people that you have what it takes to stop this, why not put the person there, empower him to do it? Put him there.
So you're canvassing for the FCT minister
yes!
to insecurity in Nigeria?
He said he can now. If he says you can, then put him there, let him go and fight. He said he had what it takes to bring Sambisa down and bring any living creature out.
All right. Let's move on to the next story now, until we actually have, you know, facts to back up all these statements. but let's look at the federal government. Yesterday rejected accusation of rights abuse made against it by the United Kingdom Trade Union Congress over the arrest of Joe Ajaero, president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, insisting that nobody, including the NLC president, is above the law in Nigeria. You'd recall that president of Nigeria Labour Congress, Mr. Joe Ajaero, was arrested and detained by the Department of State Services, DSS, at the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport, Abuja, en route London, to attend a conference of the Trade Union Congress of UK, and released on Monday night. The federal government, in a statement by the Special Advisor to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Nanuga, said the NLC president was arrested by operatives of the Department of State Services because he refused to honor the invitation of a law enforcement agency carrying out an investigation. When we talk about Joe Ajaero's arrest, we start from his arrest down to the reaction of Nigerians, NLC, TUC, different agencies coming out to say we are with Labour on this one, and then down to when they told the federal government to make sure that he's released by midnight on Monday, and down to the fact that we saw at midnight that he was actually released at that time, and down to the UK TUC saying that the federal government, accusing the federal government of human rights abuse against the union, and then down to the federal government reacting to that accusation, saying no, that is against what actually happened. And they explained why exactly he was arrested. I'd like to get your thoughts on this whole saga.
Now, it's becoming a recurrent decimal. The spate of the unprofessionalism of our security operatives over time. Do you know that as an individual, you can empower a policeman that you see on the road and say, please come and arrest this person for me, without forensic evidence? He will embark on that mission, knowing he's going to partake in the spoils.
No, but there is usually investigation carried out. You cannot take that out of the picture.
That is why I said they are so unprofessional in their antecedents, their modus operandi and all of that. If not, Mr. Joe Ajaero will not be visiting the DSS, ICPC. Anybody that likes will just go and pick him. The last time I came to these studios, I told you, I said that man is like the heartbeat of NLC, and to that effect, he should be handled with keen care. If not, it is going to boomerang into something else that will have an adverse effect on government policies, on government itself, and Nigerians as a whole. Now, looking at Joe Ajaero, what key into whatever government is saying?
Him being informed of his what he's been accused of doesn't make him doesn't say that he actually did it.
So the question now is, what do we feel he did? This, if someone stole, whether he's a policymaker, whether he's a politician, look at the issue of Rochas Okorocha, the ex-governor of Imo State. See how he was embarrassed. Now looking at Joe Ajaero now, when Rochas was niched, before he was arrested, the news was everywhere. Now, this is the second or third time he's been arrested. First of all, he was beaten in Imo State. Secondly, his office was ravaged. He was arrested. And I heard now that they're carrying out a medical test on him, or to ascertain his health level.
That's the NLC now.
The NLC. Now, assuming he's going through any sort of trauma, he's going to springboard into something else. Now, what are they holding Joe Ajaero for? We should know now. Everybody wants to know what he's held for, so that we can hands off.
They already told us. They accused him of crime. They accused him of involvement in criminal activities and all of that. It was mentioned.
Then the evidences should be made known to us.
Okay. So
that everybody can hands off and say, please, Mr. Joe Ajaero, please face the music, because you are not above the law. And I believe Nigeria has a constitution. There's a constitution binding all of these.
All right. Yes, Nigeria, of course, Nigeria actually has a constitution. But then people talking against these particular arrests without, backing it up with actual facts. Do you think there's some sort of, like you said, that Joe Ajaero is the heartbeat of, did you say the heartbeat of NLC or something like that?
Yes, I did.
Do you think this is some sort of sentiment coming in concerning people who are actually talking against the arrest?
Now, looking at the Nigeria of yesterday and the Nigeria of today, things have not changed so much. NLC as a body comprises of executives, right? NLC has its executives. Now, don't you think they meet? They do.
Okay.
Now, what are some of the things he's been found wanting for? They said NLC has stopped the sales of Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna refinery from being sold to whom? Dangote and Otedola.
That was something that happened in 2007.
Yes.
So you think that's what he's being arrested for?
That is why I said Nigeria has not still changed. That was 2007. Now, don't you think they will still want to sell these facilities? Presently, it is alleged that Dangote still wants to buy the Port Harcourt, these refineries, to remain relevant.
All right, we're going to talk about the refinery because we actually have a story around that.
That was why I didn't talk much about that.
Yes. We'll talk deeper about the refinery, the sale, and all of that, federal government and the NLC. But at this point, we'll just go on a short break. And when we return, we'll look at the various stories that we have left. Please stay with us. right, we are glad to know you're still with us. Let's go straight to our next story. Just like I said before we went on that break, we'll take a story that's talking about the federal government, the NLC, the 2007 saga with the refinery, the sales, and all of that. Now, the story says that presidency on Tuesday blamed the current state of the nation's refinery, including Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna refineries, on the opposition by Labour to federal government plans to sell them to Aliko Dangote and Femi Otedola Tuesday, which is today. Now, Bayo Onanuga, the special advisor to the president on information and strategy, revealed this while condemning the claims of the government being against human rights over Nigeria's arrest by the UK TUC. He accused the labor unions in Nigeria of pursuing narrow interests that had in the past only stunted the economic growth and development of the country. Onanuga cited the strong opposition of the NLC and TUC to the sale of Port Harcourt and Kaduna refineries to Blue Star Consortium promoted in 2007 by Aliko Dangote and Femi Otedola during the administration of former President Olusegun Obasanjo. Now, according to him, 17 years after the labor movement forced the successor government of Umar Yar'Adua to cancel the sale of the two refineries, none of the four government-owned refineries have worked. The refineries since remained comatose, despite having gulped about $25 billion in maintenance costs. You know, when we talk about maintenance costs and, you know, the money that has been invested in these refineries to make them functional, a lot of people have mentioned, I think there was a report of 1.5 billion naira or something like that, but now we're hearing from Onanuga saying 25 billion naira in these refineries, and yet they are not functional. But he's blaming the NLC. He said that the NLC have this you know, the selfish movement sometimes. Do you see anything selfish with the NLC, according to him, stopping the 2007 sale of the refineries?
Over the years, I don't know how their method of operations are.
Where? With the NLC?
With the, no, between NLC and our government.
Okay.
They're always having this phase off. Until now, I never knew all of this. Now, how do people carry out their own businesses in regards to what puts food on your table? Looking at the Port Harcourt, Warri, and Kaduna refinery, look at this, the whooping figure that has been affirmationed. What were those monies jet for? Was it put into production? Now, these refineries were working at a time. At what point did these refineries go so dilapidated that they could not be restructured? I believe if there are sinuses to a company having to fold up, the strength of power will reduce, the production will reduce, manpower will reduce. No, that is when you start seeing signs of we have the Wall Street and Main Street in regards to how they put it elsewhere as obtainable in other countries. But here in Nigeria, we use inflation and other terminologies. Now you see, that is when this ought to have been curbed. Foreigners were in charge of our refineries maintenance, and at a time they edged out of the country, and we, with our local content mindset, started doing whatever we were doing, and that has brought our refineries to such disrepute that they still maintain same manpower, same strength of staff, and they keep paying salaries for refineries that are not working. And I think when you call when it has to do with Dangote and Otedola, from the powers that be, from media reports and other things I've seen, they say it is only 5% of our population that control the wealth of Nigeria. If Dangote and Otedola had bought over these refineries in 2007, do you think they would have solved the problem of having premium PMS and all of that?
So you think privatizing the refineries would not have solved the problem?
It's not going to solve the problem now. It would have solved the problem, and it cannot still solve the problem.
Why? Why
because
do you think
anything
so?
that goes, is there anything that has gone up in Nigeria that has come down? No. Now, you see, the rich and mighty makes money from the poor. Who are the people that buys these PMS? It's we. The supposed poor. I'm not poor anyway, because when we talk about...
You can say the common man.
The common man. That is not common. Because given the wherewithal to phantom a transient government, give the supposed or alleged common man 1 million naira to channel into...
But if we had privatization of the refineries and we had more hands coming in, don't you think that would have, you know, put up sort of like a competition in the price of these products? That would have dropped the price.
I think I would even go for the moribund refineries than these direct sales of these refineries to certain individuals. Because you are still talking about competition.
Are the individuals the problem? Do you have a problem with the individuals that wanted to buy the refineries, or you have a problem with the sale of the refinery in general?
I have problem with the individuals that will buy these refineries.
So if it was someone else, you would not mind us selling at that time?
I wouldn't want either of our refineries to be sold to an indigenous company or individual. Do you know why? Because if a foreigner is coming, you bring him on board and you tell him, if we don't have these terms put in place, there's no way. And they'll come and they'll key into it. Do you know why I'm saying this? If you know how much goes down the train every second, because this oil is something that is being produced in seconds, right? In hours, in days, in large quantity. Do you know how much they'll be making for every minute they are into production?
They will be paying to the government. They'll be remitting taxes and other things to the government.
That is it.
But now, okay, look at it now that the government is handling it. How much are these refineries remitting to the government?
Because it is within themselves. That is why it cannot work.
So privatizing it, wouldn't it have been better?
Privatizing it, like I said, if you are privatizing it to foreign individuals, not all these native cocks that we are having everywhere, it won't work. These are things they've tried in the past for 17 years. It never worked. Is it now that it is going to work?
When you say things they tried in the past, what are you referring to? The sale? Or the
management
handling it? Okay. But that's a government. This is private. Those are two different entities.
When those in the private are still those in government, it's not going to change. It's not going to change.
Dangote is not in government, last I checked.
Dangote is not in government.
And that was the individual that was mentioned that wanted to buy.
Dangote has one leg in government and one leg out of government.
Why do you think so?
Because he also sponsors those in government. If you sponsor anybody in government, you're in government.
So that's what you think?
That is what I have seen, not what I think. That is what
you think so because of what you have seen, right?
Yes.
Okay.
He was part of those that sponsored Yaradua. He was part of those that sponsored Buhari, and part of those that sponsored...
Your thoughts now, those are entirely your thoughts?
Yes, they are entirely my thoughts.
All right.
And to that effect, he knew that things were not working out the way he permissively thought before coming out with this Dangote refinery, his own personified now. But I can't say it is solely personified because there are other key stakeholders. in the refinery, right? Now look at the whoopee sum I heard was given to him by the SYZ.
But let's come back to the refineries now, right?
Okay.
And then privatizing them or leaving them with the government. And there was something you mentioned earlier where you said that from your research you saw that the refineries were previously managed by foreigners, and then after these foreigners left, according to you, the refineries began to take to retrogress, to take a backward movement now. So looking at the solution to our refineries currently, right, what do you think can revive our refineries or even the petroleum sector?
The key word we should be looking out for here is transparency. Our people have not been transparent in regards to the way administration, production, distribution of these products have been over time. That is why Onanuga and his cohorts can come look us in the face and keep lying to us and obtain time that these refineries will work, and they never worked. And I doubt if they are going to work, because the system of monopoly has so much pervaded that it's like a mirage to us now. And to me as an individual, I don't believe that these refineries are going to work until I see. They say you are going to see blood. If there is no cut on you, until you have a cut, you are not going to see the blood, right? So until we have a system that is not going to be chaotic, that is not going to devour off human franchises that will work. No Nigerian wants to believe that these refineries will work. And as a matter of fact, I'm urging that they should put a team in place to look at how the operations of these refineries are. Why should you be still paying staffs in a refinery that is not working? The only sort of staff I believe that should be paid in either of all these refineries are the security operatives, just to mitigate the aftermath of the leftovers of what has become of our dilapidated structures called refineries. Now, if you look at it, there are other countries that have refineries that produces even more barrels per day than Nigeria. It's not good enough. Today you will hear the president is having bilateral talks with Oman, with China. These are all
for the good of Nigeria.
For the good of Nigeria. But it does not show. Every now and then, a president will go with an envoy of personalities. At the end of the day, like go to China now, you will hear the Mr. President is having bilateral talk with the president of China. At the end of the day, we are indebted to China in terms of trillions. How do you pay back? Please, I want my soul to be at rest and at peace.
All right, so you actually feel like they should put up a team to look into the functionality of the refineries?
Certainly.
Okay.
Certainly.
How about leasing? Because we heard about it being leased, the Warrior and Kaduna refinery being leased for 5 years.
That would be so awesome.
Okay, that's good too. But that's also to private individuals in Nigeria. You don't think it's a problem?
Why did I say it's awesome? It is to buttress the affirmative points I highlighted before. If in 5 years it is still same thing, because now if these private individuals buys into the refineries, are we going to have fuel at 40, 50, 100 naira per liter? Because this is something that is gotten internally. Now we are not having external forces. We are not taking this crude out of Nigeria. They will mass produce and bring back to
we have
us.
foreign, this just brings to mind what you said earlier. If we then have foreign individuals coming, you know, to manage these refineries, or we privatize them, send them off to foreign individuals, is it really going to reduce the price of fuel in Nigeria?
That is why I said,
are these going to be people who would have the interest of people at heart, or more about business?
I have a corporation I manage, and I have, my staff strength is 5 that I paid. And before they started working for me, we had a round table talk, a take-off meeting.
Okay.
Where I told them the operations of my cooperative.
All right.
And I was like, this is it. Can you adjust to this? For a position of 5, I had over 50 people, even graduates, coming for the job. And 5 were able to key into what I wanted. Please, you are coming from US, you are coming from Britain, you are coming from here, and you need to partake in our oil. Okay, this is how many barrels this and this and this is able to produce over time. I would say, okay, this is it. If we go into this is the benchmark for production. This should be the benchmark for sales.
Right. There are conditions with this leasing, so let's see how that goes. It's still out for bidding. We're hoping to see the people who come for that one, and seriously, trust me, I'm following up that story, and I'll bring you details as they unfold. Now let's look at our next story. All right, let's take a look at the next story now. We're done talking about the NLC, the refineries. Let's go to corruption. Well, this is concerning SERAP. Socio-Economic Rights and Accountability Project, SERAP, has urged President Bola Tinubu to direct Department of Security Services to end the intimidation, harassment and attack on the organization and stop the threat of arrest of our directors. In SERAP's words, some officers from DSS invaded the Abuja office. A tall, dark-skinned woman entered our office, in their words, and I'm quoting them, accompanied by a slim, dark-skinned man. And officers were all right, 2 unmarked vehicles were stationed outside the office, and officers who interrogated our official requested to see our directors. The invasion of SERAP's office followed our call on Mr. Tinubu and his government to direct the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited to immediately reverse the apparently illegal and unconstitutional increase in the pump price of petrol, and to ensure the prompt and thorough investigation of alleged corruption and mismanagement in the NNPC. In a statement on Monday by SERAP Deputy Director Kolawole Oluwadare, the organization said, in their words, and I quote, "We condemn the invasion of our Abuja office by the Nigeria Department of State Services, and the Tinubu administration must immediately direct the DSS to end the intimidation and harassment of SERAP and our staff members." Yes, on this story of invasion, because we had the human rights lawyer and senior advocate of Nigeria, that's Femi Falana. He said that we condemn the invasion of the DSS on the SERAP Abuja office, and also the SERAP made the same statement. I'd like to get your thoughts on this DSS and SERAP story.
Like I said earlier, I wonder and ponder at the manner at which our security operatives operate. They are not of world global standard. If not, we will not be where we are today. See, I always want to take a leave from countries where they have a system that works. Before, like when I watched the footage of how Osama bin Laden was killed, I was perplexed. I'm like, wow. So Mr. President was part of the team that engineered all of this. It was such an awesome scenario. Mr. President, at the end of his daily work, he would go to the station. They were following Osama bin Laden, until they discovered that he was in a safe zone where if they're going to strike, it will take other lives. Can't we borrow a leaf from all of this? Have you ever watched the what they call it, serial movie called 24? Their own pursuit without forensic evidences. At least, if you are coming to arrest somebody, there should be an empirical evidence before even going for an arrest. Because you look at people in the Western world, before they mention your name, they must have everything against you, so that once they are coming for you, you know this. Funny enough, if they are coming for you, if you are under investigation, you repatriate opposition while they are under investigation. For instance, now let's assume the NLC president that is being chased after today. If at the tail end of everything, he's found wanting, tomorrow you will see that he's still the NLC president. Why not we have a constitutional review? Wherefore, if you are under investigation, the first thing that happens in a sane society is for you to leave your office while you are under investigation. But it's not same thing here in Nigeria. Today, the DSS is coming here, the DSS is here. They can even break your wall just to come and secure an arrest, which is not supposed to be.
Let's look at the DSS reply to this story. You know, there have been lots of reactions to this DSS and Serap story. Serap condemning, other Nigerians condemning. But then the DSS had to respond to this, and they have said that they did not attack, as it was implied by the NLC. They did not attack the office, the Abuja office. They went for questioning. According to them, if you look at NLC's explanation, where they described the lady, described the man who came into the office and two others down with the vehicle outside, right? It doesn't, their report, does it show any form of attack? Does it show the DSS attacking any particular person in that particular place? And then down to the DSS saying they actually did not attack. They went there for talks and probably interrogation or whatever.
Probably the way they go about doing their businesses is what's causing all of these issues. You see, the modus operandi of our security operatives is becoming unbecoming. You can be walking on the road and someone will just snitch on you, and the mannerism in which they carry out their operations has called for all of this. If not, we won't be where we are today. I've seen footages of policemen in Zambia, Zimbabwe, Uganda playing with elites in the society. That cannot happen here in Nigeria. It's something that happened during the NLC building raid. They said they did not go for the NLC president, but the office was ransacked. Things were carted away with, but they said they went to arrest someone else. At the end of the day, it was Ajeru that was in question. So Serap over time has called that the body of the DSS, ICPC, and is there about should be looked into.
All right, let's look at this story on crime. Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi, has said those found guilty of corruption should not be granted state pardon. Fagbemi, who also advised law enforcement agencies against shoddy investigation, tasked them to have their facts before summoning anyone for questioning, just what you were saying. And according to a statement by the Special Assistant to the President on Communication and Publicity, Office of the AGF, Kamarudin Ogundele, on Monday in Abuja, the AGF stressed that everyone's cooperation is needed to fight corruption. According to the statement, the AGF spoke at a roundtable organized by the Independent Corruption Practices and Other Related Offences Commission for State Attorney General in Abuja on Monday. He further advised the state attorneys general to eschew nepotism, political witch hunting, rivalry, and bigotry in the fight against corruption. Okay, these are some of the things that he has actually noted and mentioned concerning the way we tackle corruption, the way we fight corruption in Nigeria. All right, let's get your thoughts on this story.
The word corruption, if as it is in Nigeria, cannot be overemphasized, because socially, economically, religiously, or otherwise, educationally, this corruption has so much pervaded that it has gone into our bone marrows. Is there any section of the economy where we've not breathed or we are not breathing corruption here in Nigeria? No. And this has to change. How can we change the narrative? Look at insecurity. If we don't have corrupt leaders, we won't have insecurity. Now, how can people from nowhere come into a state, cohabit in the state, hold people to ransom, and nobody is saying anything? Like Femi Falana once said, if that is happening over 48 hours and there is no response from any governmental figures, it means someone from government that is highly placed is within the auspice of what is happening. It's on this regard that I'm actually calling SERAP, ICPC. Please, they should have symposium where they will have large seminars. What you know is not what I know. Where they can brainstorm on how to bring corruption to its barest minimum. It should start from our immediate environment, our homes, into our schools, our offices, our church, because these are the major places where we find gross corruption. And until we are able to fight corruption to its barest minimum, we won't have an overlive. See, a government that is not corrupt, like there is this proverbial saying that goes, where the righteous rule, the people rejoice. You know, once our political sphere, our religious leaders, our authors, our institutionalists, if they are void of corruption, I think Nigeria will be one of the best places to live on planet Earth.
All right, even though people have said that, okay, we can bring corruption to the barest minimum, but when we talk about completely eradicating it, that might be a huge challenge. But let's look at this particular policy that was mentioned, talking about corruption convicts should not enjoy state pardon. Do you see that as a step towards putting an end to corruption? Is that severe, or is that something that you feel is a step towards the right direction?
For a man that has killed, maimed, ravaged a society, and he's taken to court and they've passed a pronouncement that he's supposed to serve life imprisonment, and at the end of the day there are government factors coming to say such a person should be granted state pardon. Don't you think that person will become a menace to the society? Because these days I've paid visitation to 1, 2, 3, about four prisons, correctional centers, and I discovered that most of these people are not rehabilitated before they are sent back into the society. Because I have this body that pays visitation to these correctional centers, and when we go there, I think out of the box. I'm like, please, let's try to see the measures you've put in place to make sure this does not happen again. And when I saw some of their entries, I discovered that those that were found wanting for a particular crime were in same correctional center for same crime. Almost immediately they were released. That is to show you that there
was no correction made.
There was no correction made before they were sent forth back to the society.
But there are measures on ground for corrections. That there are measures on ground for orientation, you know, and all of those things. There are provisions for that when you look at their modus operandi over there. So one would wonder why these are not being followed.
Please don't wonder again, because these are issues staring us in the face. Let me cite an example with that of the Port Harcourt Correctional Center, where 9 people died last week. Are you aware of that? Now, all this boils down to what? Do you know that hunger can lead to corruption? Now looking at this, you are bringing food for an inmate through whom the prison warders that have not eaten, and you want that food to get to the inmate. So we don't have a prolific food bank anymore where we store food for all of this. So like I interviewed some of the inmates. Some said before their people left, they said they brought food stuff for them, but they don't see this food stuff. And you know, if there are no palliative measures put on ground, this will not happen. Okay, we are talking about corruption in this retrospect. Now look at the area of those that are even sane, that think normally. If you look at it, they say a hungry man is an angry man. The way we run our businesses in our offices, in our religious homes, even in the marketplace. If, for instance, we are having fuel brought down, or something that will take care of corruption is if we have food available everywhere, and we have things going the way of everybody, this can actually start receding
towards the right direction.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Alfredo El Nino, for your thoughts on Atlantic Blowout today. We appreciate you.
You're welcome.
And big thanks to you for being a part of this conversation. It wouldn't have been possible without you. But this is where we get to wrap it up on this episode of Atlantic Blowout. Remember that we are open for partnerships, sponsorships. Stay connected with us on all of our ATN socials, on Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, on Instagram and TikTok at Atlantic TV Network 1, and on X at Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website at www.atlanticnetwork.tv. Always remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Thank you once again for watching. I am Enidoye Jackson. Coming up next is Open Conversation. Stay with us on ATN.
From the lines across the ocean to the land beyond the mountains, through the Sahara, we bring all the sport news, live analysis, expert discussions on trending stories in politics, business, socio-economics, sports, and documentaries. So catch all the updates on the happenings around the globe. Stay focused on the fact today.